Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion on this Tuesday morning. Well, looking back as we finish out the month of September, we really are looking at some pretty nice gains. Now, obviously for the month, not so much so. We had some pressure on the markets, it seemed like, throughout the very start of the month all the way towards the end. But in the end part of the market here, Friday, what a nice move. 360 points to the upside. We followed that up. We were up over 500 points yesterday at points in the day, but finished up over 400 points, or a 1.5%. The Nasdaq had a really nice run to the upside yesterday, up over 200 points. Near the highs of the day is where it closed. Russell, which I don't bring up as often as I probably should, but the Russell also participating. And part of the reason I don't bring it up as much is we just haven't seen reason to really bring that up in terms of some of the movement there. So we did have about a 2.5% move, very strong move yesterday in the Russell as well. So the Dow leaders, what was up over 2% yesterday? Boeing, Dow itself, you got CVX, and throw in Honeywell. So a nice, powerful move from some of those big names that oftentimes we're just wondering, how are the industrials doing? How is energy doing? How are the financials doing? Well, speaking of the financials, a really nice recovery day for the financials, up about 2%. You had Goldman Sachs, American Express, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, all up 2% or more. So a really nice performance there. The XLF up about 2.5%, or very close to 2.5% yesterday as well. Still well below, when you look at the XLF, well below that 25 level. We were talking about that, just what felt like a magnet, but certainly a nice recovery off of, we were down towards 23, moving up towards 24 through 24. Industrials yesterday, though, as I mentioned, really strong day. When you look at Boeing up 6% on the day, Dow up about 3% on the day, that really does say something. As a matter of fact, consumers were strong, materials were strong, airlines were strong yesterday. UAL up about 5%, Delta up about 5%, Southwest up 3%. You get the idea. Pretty powerful almost across the board. And energy really was the focal point yesterday. As a matter of fact, when you look across, and I mentioned CVX earlier, that's Chevron with a great day, but then Devon and throw in Diamondback, and then take a look over at the OIH, which was up about 4% yesterday. Halliburton, Schlumberger, National Oil Well, Varco, Apache, all these names moving very, very strong to the upside. So the OIH certainly participating when it comes to energy. Pressure on some of those names, those stay-at-home names like the Zooms of the world. Biotech also had a little bit of pressure. Matter of fact, healthcare itself, when I look at Merck and Eli Lilly down on the day, when you're looking at a market that's sprinting to the upside, you're always trying to find out, all right, well, what isn't working on this day? And those are some of the names that really were not participating. We still had a volatility, let's call it what it is, right in the 26s, and they're very, very tight range for volatility index. Matter of fact, volumes did come down a little bit yesterday, and nothing concerning. Matter of fact, any other day in any other year, 24.5 million contracts would be a monster day. But as we've been talking about and defining, 30 million a day very frequently recently is something that is the target level now, and shooting for that. And we've been talking about it all throughout 2020 has been the volume. And the volume was there in January. It was there in February. It really did spike, of course, as we were going through that huge dip in the markets. But also, we've just continued to see day after day after day incredible volumes in the derivatives markets. And that's something that I think really does stand out. So early on, what were we looking at? We were looking at a market that was down a little bit. Nothing big. As a matter of fact, down less than 50 points to the downside on the Dow. NASDAQ moving around, sort of positive, sort of negative, but mostly to the positive side, with some of the leaders in there definitely coming from the chip space. KLAC 10 Core, I look at Western Digital, I also look at AMD, all of that really early on sort of powering what was going on for the NASDAQ. But the NASDAQ powering just 10, 15, 20 points to the upside. It really wasn't anything big, but certainly a little bit of a disconnect between that and the Dow, but nothing big. Then suddenly we got a pretty nice turnaround, as a matter of fact, that where we watched the Dow actually come back. Now we're slipping once again, and as a matter of fact, pulling down on the NASDAQ as well. But we talked about that volatility index yesterday. It jumped towards that 27 level, and that was interesting because it was a market that was moving to the upside, but the movements that we have had have been very, very large and broad, and because of that, that gives you an idea of the volatility index really reflecting exactly what's going on in the markets, which is some very large moves on a day-to-day basis, especially the previous couple of days that we've seen. So Strength early on was coming from where? Well, take a look at Facebook, take a look at Twitter, social media. Certainly an area where we were seeing some strength early on. Weakness was coming from what was so strong yesterday in the energy patch. So Devon and Apache and Diamondback and Cabot Oil and those names in the energy space. Throw in the airlines as well. I mentioned they were pretty strong yesterday, but UAL and Delta and Southwest all under a little bit of pressure today. It's nothing big. Nothing's getting really pushed too hard to the downside or the upside right now. So the first 45 minutes or so, yeah, we're relatively flat, but we've slipped back down again. Taking a quick look, we were flat just minutes ago. Now we're down about 40 points. But 40 points, when we're talking about an index that's 27,500, you get the idea. It is not any kind of a major concern or move just yet. And what was working early on when we started to make that flip and pushing into the positive territory, we had Honeywell and Caterpillar, Nike, Cisco, Intel joining along with some of the other semis that have been so strong, and that's been an area that has been incredible. You look over at the NASDAQ, that's what was leading the NASDAQ in the positive territory. We have pulled off of that now down about 20 points. We are in just the first hour of trade, though, so a long day in front of us. But Micron, nice spike, getting back up over 50. We had AMD, we had Western Digital, Lam Research, those names all participating. Healthcare, talk about some of the names that weren't working yesterday. Healthcare, not as much contributing to those gains yesterday, but now we're starting seeing a little bit of healthcare up about 0.5%. That's early, so a lot of things can change at this point in time. Now, unusual option activity. I got to go with my gut on this one because there is a lot of different names. We're, as I say, barely an hour into the trading session. And there's about 8 or 10 different unusual option activities that I could be choosing from right now, and a couple of them were very tempting, but this one, I think, really made a little bit of sense because it's the second hit in 2 days, and that's why I selected it. DraftKings. Yesterday, they were buying the short-term October options in DraftKings at the 60 strike. Today, they're doubling down because they're coming after the short-term October options at the 59 strike. As a matter of fact, today, a lot smaller number. Yesterday, a monstrous number of buyers. Today, 2,400 of these Octobers buying. They're about a $2 option. Stock was trading about 57 and a quarter, call it. So it's got a little bit of time. It's Tuesday only today. So we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So limited time, 4 days for this to react. But yesterday, following up on yesterday's, and this stock hitting what is new highs, then pulling back, then new highs and pulling back. It feels like there might be some room for maybe a break to the upside, and that's probably what we're seeing here on some of these options that we've been watching as they've been coming in with a little bit more of a steady flow. As a matter of fact, yesterday, those numbers were outrageous. Take a look at some of those numbers yesterday. You can see it, some of that by the open interest in these October 2nd expiring options that I'm talking about. Today, it's the 59s. Yesterday, it was the 60s. It gives you a little bit of an insight. I had an interesting question on Twitter today. Hey, Pete, what are your top 5 teams in the NFL? We always have a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of wonderful people out there. There are the haters, but there is also a lot of people that just want to enjoy and know that it's not all about markets. It's not all about sports. The whole world is within our realm that we can talk about, and a lot of fun things. And politics, obviously, is dominating this time of year, especially going into the election. We've got a big debate tonight. That could have some effects on the market depending on how that goes and if there's any kind of huge decisions that people could make based upon what they are hearing from the debate. So that's something that'll be monitored very, very closely. But Kansas City, watching Kansas City last night going up against who I thought was probably the second best team in football at the time, Baltimore. It did show you a little bit of the weaknesses that maybe Baltimore has. Kansas City sure looks great on offense, on defense. The defense did a magnificent job last night against Lamar Jackson. Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes, yes, Patrick, not Pat, Patrick Mahomes really showing why he is the guy who's getting a $500 million contract. I still can't even hardly say it, but a $500 million contract. Really absolutely an amazing thing to watch what these contracts are, but they have locked up some of their biggest and best players, and Kansas City certainly does look like a team that is destined to want to maybe try to at least make a big run for a repeat. I hear a lot of people talking about the fact that they might be able to run the table and not lose a game this season. I'm not so sure about that. They've been tested already, and I think that that's very, very difficult in today's NFL. A little bit different than it was back when the Miami Dolphins did it. It's even different back when Chicago made a really great run, New England made a really great run. But as things have changed, as time has changed, as they've moved around a lot of different aspects of the game, I think it's that much more difficult to be able to, especially in the atmosphere that we're in right now, playing during a pandemic, as we've been going through that process, and the NFL's done a magnificent job, along with the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball. Hats off to all of them. College football as well. But we also know that there could be some stumbles along the way, and with those stumbles, that could affect some of the teams in a negative way. And under those circumstances, it just makes it that much more difficult, I think, to make an undefeated season happen in today's NFL. We'll see. Should be pretty interesting to watch. And boy, they sure are fun to watch. And last night, that was a great game. And boy, when you watch Patrick Mahomes and how fast he can get rid of the football, even if you're not a football fan, you got to watch how this guy plays. Does he have fun? Yes. Is he unbelievable? Yes. Does he make passes that no other quarterback I've ever watched in the last 25 years can make? Yes. He's not Tom Brady, different style. He's not any of the other quarterbacks. His style is so different, but he's so much fun to watch, and the guy's got a smile on his face all the time. You got to love it. I'm Pete Najarian. Enjoy your trading session. A lot of people were asking me today, so I'll fill you in. No fast money, no halftime report for me for the rest of the week. Until Friday, I'll do the halftime report, so I'll see you then. Folks, have a great day of trading.